What up, YouTube? It's LuckyLuke5392 here, doing a deck showcase for a user known as Arkoffusion. I hope I said that right. I really did. If I didn't, I'm sorry. He actually messaged me personally, which I was very honored to receive this message from you, that you wanted me to showcase my scraps on your channel. So here it is, right here, for all of YouTube to see. Maybe you're going to get some more publicity on this, I hope so, but I hope people see this. So let's go and give you guys a deck profile for post-Primal Origins scraps. I'll do a little bit of the, I'll do the deck profile, and then I'll go into some of the combos that you can do with this deck, and then see, you know, maybe make you see why I like this deck a lot, other than the fact that it's just scraps. It's my favorite archetype. So you play the 3 Chimeras. Chimera can, one normal summoned, targets one of the scrap tuners, any scrap tuner in your graveyard, mind you, and it will special summon it to your side of the field. It can, if it's used for a synchro material monster, it can only be used for a scrap monster, and all other monsters used have to be scraps as well. But that doesn't matter because we play all the tuners. We play Scrap Beasts, which is the level 4. Its destruction effect, like any other scrap tuner in the deck, is when destroyed by the effect of a scrap card, you can add one scrap monster other than itself from the graveyard to the hand. And this is only in effect shared among the tuners. Some of them also have on destruction effects that, you know, the non-tuners, but we'll get into that in a second. Scrap Beast's specific ability states that when it's targeted as a attack target while it's face up in defense position, at the end of the battle phase it kills itself. But if it dies by battle, the effect doesn't matter, and it dies anyway. The other 4 we play is the Orthros. This is a clutch one of. The Orthros feels a lot of plays. When you have another scrap monster on the field, you special summon it, and then on summon, it targets one scrap monster you control, and you destroy it. Now, generally, you're going to destroy himself because then you can get the tuner effect of adding the Chimera usually. You can add one other scrap monster back to your hand, and like I said, that's generally going to be the Chimera because then you can just recycle for more scrap dragons, and it's silly. We play 2 goblins because they can stall and they're good just in case you draw the occasional scrap golem. And they share the same exact effect. When they're destroyed by a scrap tuner, scrap effect, they add one to hand from the graveyard. This one cannot be destroyed by battle, and when it's just targeted for an attack in a face-up defense position, it kills itself at the end of the battle phase. So it'll survive the battle phase, and then it'll destroy itself and give you your card. If it does survive, if you set it turn 1 and it survives, you can tribute it for Scrap Golem. And Scrap Golem's effect is once per turn, you target one scrap level 4 lower scrap monster in your graveyard and special summon it. It's really powerful card for this deck, and it works really well with Call the Haunted and all the scrap synchros. I played 2 Scrap Shark. Now this is a non-tuner, but it is a level 4, and I'm going to tell you why this card's good. We're going to get to the Scrap Factory portion in a minute, but when it's destroyed by a scrap effect, it'll Foolish Burial any scrap monster from your deck to the graveyard. And it's a 2100 beat stick, level 4. And when any effect is activated on the field, be it monster effect, spell, or trap, this card kills itself. So, you know, it sounds kind of bad, but with Scrap Factory, the card just it sets up so much plays, and it's a really big beater to have to deal with if your opponent doesn't have an out to it or something. The one of us, we play 1 redux because you can pitch it with a dead golem in hand and then revive the golem and then go crazy. And you can also make like Star Eater and other stuff like that. And then we play the 1 Stun PRIO, Thunder Stun PRIO. Love this guy. Love that card. Go right into the spells. We're going to play 3 of the staple Factory. Card's effect is once per turn, and only once per turn, can you use the effect of Scrap Factory. When a scrap monster is destroyed and sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can special summon any scrap monster from your deck. Let that sit. Any scrap monster from your deck. You're going to summon that golem. You're going to get that golem out, you're going to special summon it, and it's going to be making scrap dragons and scrap twin dragons go crazy. So, and it also gives them a 200 attack and defense boost to all face-up scrap monsters on the field. We play 3 of the Scrapyard, which is the tuner searcher of the deck. It's like Rhoda for the scrap tuners. It's pretty cool. Scrap Storm, the clinch card in this deck. The card you always run 3 of, regardless of what version of scraps you're playing. This card is amazing, even on its own. It targets a scrap monster. Then you send one, like Shark, you send one scrap monster from your deck to the graveyard, usually Chimera because you're targeting a tuner with this, but we'll go into that in a second. And then you draw a card, and then you destroy the scrap monster that you targeted in the first place. And you can use multiples of these in one chain because you can technically resolve all parts of the effect if you chain them all, but you only get one destruction effect. You'll still get the foolish one, you'll still get to destroy one, but the first one to resolve will get the destruction. Play 2 duality for some consistency. I don't play 3 because I do some special summoning a lot, and having 2 is nice just in case I break a little bit first off, because I tend to draw all spells and traps sometimes, so this is nice to have. And if you need to, you can set it and pop it with a scrap dragon. 3 MST, staple, it's necessary. 1 Book of Moon, and Dark Hole, because Scrap Factory makes Dark Hole and Torrential okay to main deck anyway. Let's go to the traps. We're going to play 2 Fiendish Chain, 2 Call of the Haunted. Now, I play these because I don't like 3 because it seems cloggy, but playing continuous cards like this are good for Scrap Dragon fodder, because then you don't have to worry about, maybe popping off one of these wonderful cards, your Bottomless, your Mirror Force, Torrential, the 1 Black Horn that I run because I like Black Horn a lot. It's one of my favorite trap cards, even though I don't feel like it's as relevant anymore with PRIO. Now that Artifacts and Sylvans are out, it doesn't seem as good. So you could play, if you wanted to play an Emptiness or something instead of this, that would be okay too. So let's jump straight to the extra deck. Now, only because I play Cyber Dragons, I play this card. If you don't play Cyber Dragons, then you can ignore this card, because I do have 16 in here just for the video. If you play the Cyber Dragons, you can play this, obviously. It's really good, because Yugiohs are okay. I mean, right now, I don't know if this is going to be as relevant, because Yugiohs didn't get the super support they were supposed to get. So this could or could not be a good thing. So you can play it if you want. Otherwise, we'll play the 1 Scrap Archfiend, because Goblin and Chimera is a thing. Play 2 Scrap Twin Dragon. Well, we're going to go into 3 Scrap Dragons, and we all know what Scrap Dragon does. You target 1 card on each side of the field, pop it. Scrap Twin Dragon has the similar effect. You target 1 card on your side of the field and 2 cards on your opponent's side of the field, because, it's got 2 heads, it's cool. And you destroy your target, and then bounce the 2 targets on your opponent's side of the field back to their hand. And then you play, as I said, the Scrap Archfiend, because if you don't have the beast, you can always go and do a Scrap Chimera and do Scrap Goblin, and you can get this and go into a 7. We don't play Black Rose, because a lot of the times there's no way to go into it aside from really anything. You don't really have a great way to go into it unless you play unless you have Thunder King on board and you go with Scrap Goblin. That's really the only way you can go into it, and it's not consistent enough to take up the space in the deck, especially considering all the destruction this deck does anyway. As the other 8s, we play a Stardust Dragon and a Crimson Blader, and I play the 1 Star Eater because I play Redux, and I think it's a good card. There's Emerald for the Exceeds. We play the rank 4s, and only rank 4s. There's nothing else. We play Heartland Draco because of the field spell. Either of these 2 cards are iffy. If you do play the Chimera Attack Dragon, you would pretty much have to cut one of these out, because the rest are 101 is 101. It needs to be there. Exiton is amazing, and Diamond Dyer for problematic cards in case you don't have your Imperial Iron Walls, which I do side. And then the Dweller, because these are kind of just the staple rank 4s you play. I mean, you can play with the extra deck really all you want. This is just what I do. And the side deck, this is what I side for my own personal stuff. You can do whatever you like, whatever you feel is cool. I play the 2 Maxis, 2 Veilers, even though, Artifacts and thing, I might make these breakthrough skills, but right now I don't have those and I have Veilers. 2 Swift Scarecrows, because they're OTK stoppers, and OTKs are actually becoming a thing now. A lot of decks do OTKs. Bujins, Artifacts can probably OTK. Sylvans can OTK. All the new stuff with PRIO, Medulce's OTK. Just everything is it's so OTK-ish, and it needs to be slowed down. 2 Cyber Dragons, because like I said, I play the Chimera Tech. If I don't play these, I'd probably play, like Memory of an Adversary or something, just, to be useful. We play 2 Imperial Iron Walls. These tend to go in a lot game 2 and 3, at least game 2, because anybody who's ever played Scraps knows that Defissure and Macro hurt the hell out of this deck and make it nigh unplayable unless you have the out. We have the one mind control because you play synchros and stuff. The other Blackhorn, which, you know, like I said, if you didn't like Blackhorn, you could make it the other vanities or another mirror, like play the mirrors and Soul Drain because, you know, we need to. It's necessary because the deck has tough times with, like, you know, against things like Booge and Evil Swarms, you know, stuff like that. So let's jump into some of the combos that this deck can do. We're gonna make it real easy here. Just gonna outline some of the key cards in this deck. Not gonna make it too crazy. I do need to take things out. Alright, so we've got these cards. These are the only cards in this deck. These are like the core cards of the deck. You got Chimera, Beast, Orthros, if you can stay in one place, Goblin, Golem, Factory, Scrap Storm, and Scrap Shark. Now you see these cards, they all play a very important role in this deck in that, assuming, and you want to open Scrap Factory, that's why you play 3, but you don't play anything else to get to Factory because building a Factory-based build is really bad and inconsistent. You don't want to like centralize an entire build around this card as good as it is. So when you have Factory out, you can do many things. One of these things would be to summon the Scrap Shark and just let it sit, because when your opponent goes, they'll do something, they'll get rid of it, and then Scrap Factory will trigger. You'll end up killing the Scrap Shark will kill itself, triggering the effects. You put them on a chain, do it, you know, resolve it however you wish. If you do for Scrap Factory's chain link, you special summon the Golem, and then for Shark's chain link, you're either going to dump one of Goblin or Beast, whatever one the situation calls for. I would usually dump the Beast just because, you know, you can get the Chimera and then you're golden. But, you know, whatever you need at the time would be better, because then you can use Golem's effect, special summon either of these two, go into Scrap Twin Dragon or Scrap Dragon, and then do more stuff. A similar play would be concerning either Scrap Beast or Scrap Goblin. You open either of these two with Scrap Factory. You always play the Beast face up if you have the Scrap Storm, because this combo involves Scrap Storm. You will always play Beast face up with Scrap Storm. You will never set Beast because that is not a good play, and then you will probably either end up getting your Scrap Storm blind MST'd, or your Scrap Beast will be destroyed while face down, and then you have dead cards and you can't do anything with them. So on your opponent's end phase is the most optimal time to use this because they just set all their cards and they can't really do anything about it. So you end up using the Scrap Storm on their end phase, you do the shenanigans, you use Scrap Storm's effect, send the Chimera to the graveyard, then you draw a card, whatever it ends up being, and then it destroys Scrap Beast. Scrap Beast effect triggers, you get the Chimera back, and then Scrap Factory would trigger, and 99 times out of 100, you're going to special summon Scrap Golem with Scrap Factory because you want those out of the deck as fast as possible so that you don't draw them in there and end up dead. So after you do that, you end up having an awesome field. So we'll go through the motions real quick. Say you do that, you get the Golem with the Factory, and you've got the Chimera in hand, and it's now your turn. You draw for turn. You're going to use Scrap Golem's effect. He's going to special summon the Scrap Beast. You're going to Synchro, and you're going to go into a Scrap Twin Dragon. And do keep in mind now that we have Chimera in hand. So you're going to normal summon Chimera, use his effect, special summon back the Scrap Beast, and now you're going to Synchro into a Scrap Dragon. Regular Scrap Dragon, mind you. Or what you could also do, if you so choose, if you had another Scrap Monster you wanted back in the graveyard, say, you know, you had another Chimera in the graveyard or whatever, you could also opt to keep the Beast on field and pop it with Scrap Twin Dragon to get its effect to get whatever card you wanted back. Now, given this field, this is where Orthros shines a lot. That's why it's so freaking expensive. Because now you use this effect, you special summon it, and it kills itself. Now, whether you've used Scrap Factory or not this turn, so far we haven't. So what, or at least as far as I remember, if you have, then, you know, this is just to get a Chimera back like always. But if you haven't, Orthros will now trigger his effect to destroy himself. You're going to get your Chimera back to your hand for another Scrap Dragon next turn. And then you're going to special summon yet another Golem. And you're going to do this whole thing yet again. You're going to get another Twin Dragon on the field or whatever you want. And now, after all of that is said and done, you have a finished field of game and then some. you have, just by these 3 cards alone and that hand, I mean, that's pretty much the best hand you can possibly ever get. But this is like, and then you could, you know, do back row. Like, mind you, we've used maybe like, you know, 3 or 4 cards, and we've, you know, drawn a couple times by now, so you could have some back rows too. And this is all just off of a couple cards and in one turn. And you've got game on the board already with the ability to bounce 4 cards back to hand and destroy 1 on your opponent's side of the field. That's really, really strong. And I don't play like things like Felgrind or anything because I don't feel like I ever want to not have a scrap synchro, because if a scrap synchro is ever destroyed for any reason from anywhere, be it warning, blackhorned, torrential, whatever, they can special summon any non-synchro scrap monster from the graveyard, which is usually going to be the golem, and then you're going to go and special summon the necessary non-tuner, or the necessary tuner, to go back and do another one of these again. Now, mind you, when you do the effect from the tuners to add a scrap monster back to hand, if you need to put these back in your extra deck, then you can do that too. You don't have to add a Chimera back to hand every time. You can throw one of these back in your deck, your extra deck, just to make sure you keep having an influx of scrap monsters to summon. I think that's really about it. Everything else is kind of, you know, self-explanatory with the deck. You know, you just, you know, you play and make your combos and just, you know, make sure you get the most pluses out of your plays, because that's what scraps do, is they make absolutely nutty pluses off their plays. And card advantage, though, like in the hand, card advantage is a very hard thing for them to keep hold of, but when they have an established field, scraps are almost impossible to stop. And I hope you guys enjoyed this deck profile. I hope you guys learned a little something about the scraps. It's my favorite archetype. I just, you know, I wanted to share this with everybody because this is a deck that I've been waiting to play for a long time since I heard about Factory. And I was like, oh my god, Factory! And although it's a great card, it does have its, you know, flaws. It's only once per turn, and, you know, it can get MST'd and other things. But that's all I got to say for you guys. I hope you enjoyed the deck profile. Just hit me up, subscribe, like, comment, you know, whatever you want to do. And stay lucky, guys. Signing out. See you later.